We're waiting on the Wilson family to be quiet so we can start.
Listen.
Okay, hello.
Hello.
Yes. My name is Alan Hardesty, and myself and the rest of the Ponca City Alumni Committee want to thank each and every one of you for being here and supporting the 2018 induction ceremony. This is awesome. I can't believe we're here and the crowd we have. All of us have been, no, not all of us, most of us have been a part of the Ponca City High School community in some way or another, and all of us feel the same way. We're all excited and proud to be here. There's no doubt about it. And it's kind of sensitive to me. This is a special event, it really is. Not just for the inductees, but if you're a POHI grad, you know, this is a special time, and it's awesome. It's actually the second year for those who weren't here last year, and again, it is a sellout. We did real good. Thank you for being here. I personally want to thank, I want to thank the Jim Barnes family for being here. There's family and friends. The Blubaugh family, Doug Blubaugh's family is here. Lots of people with him. Chuck Bowman brought family and a lot of friends. He's got too many friends, I think. Shelby, he's here, and he brought his friends and family. Don Puddy's family is here as well. Stephan Cortright, I have not seen him yet, but I know there he is back there. And thank you for being here, Stephan. And the Odell Lawson family and friends are here as well. You know, for those of us who are POHI grads and were born and raised in Ponca, there's so many amazing things that from this crowd right here. It's just amazing. And the POHI committee, selection committee, the bios that we got, how we were able to choose the inductees, it's unbelievable. And the bios are so good, and I'm telling you right now, in the future, there's going to be more good stuff. We have lots of inductees, we have a lot of nominations to look at, and it's unbelievable. It's awesome. And it came from Ponca City High School, can you believe it? Okay, a little bit about, you know, we're going to eat dinner here in a minute as soon as I am able to be quiet.
Like you said that,
last year we had a 2017, that was our first year, and as far as I know, there's only one of those inductees present. And Mr. Nickles, if you don't mind, will you stand or wave or something? Right there he is. Thank you, Don.
Right here.
David Timberlake is here. I did not know that. Thank you. David, there he is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I'd like for the Ponca City High School Hall of Fame committee members, if you would you stand up and at least wave so they'll know who you are, so we'll know who you are. There's some right here. These, you have to be a POHI grad to be able to be on the committee, so everybody here is a POHI grad. Not everybody here, all those people. Not everybody here. Okay, and a part of those committee members, there was two people that did a lot of work on the area that we're setting in, all the decorations and the food. Vicky Cross Lawson and Marsha Olzor, they were in charge of all this, and they've been cooking all day long. So I want to give them a hand, wherever they are. Beverly Smith, also, I think she's a class of 54 grad. She's in charge of the pictures down here. Troy Buller, also a POHI grad, he's in charge of the programs. Everything is awesome. Thank you very much. Very, very, very much. Okay, here's what we're going to do before we eat. The Pohai steppers, first of all, they were the greeters. Okay, Kristen Smith is their leader. They were the greeters and the ushers. The student council will be serving us dinner. They're under the direction of Betsy Easley, and the Ponca City String Quartet, Paula Cochran, Dan Lawson, Jared Hitch, and Cassidy Broom. That they will be playing while we are eating. Okay, so the Pohai Chorale is going to come up and sing Ponca City We Love You. Then they're going to sing the national anthem. And as soon as that's done, then Gail Northcutt Young is the class of '65. She's going to come up and say her prayer. As soon as that is done, then the student council will serve us, okay? So if we can get the crowd on the way in, crowd. That's coming in. And then as soon as they get done,
oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. In dear old Oklahoma, fairest daughter of the West, stands our beloved high school in the city we love best. We choose the blue of western skies, the red from sunset's hue. Now what could be more fitting than our colors, red and blue? Ponca City, we love you with your colors, red and blue. Ever loyal, faithful, and true to dear old Ponca, we love you. Ponca City, we love you with your colors, red and blue. Ever loyal, faithful, and true to dear old Ponca, we love you.
You never knew. Parking lot needs a river flag. I don't want to use it. I graduated river. Huh? Hey, we're in our early 70s. I think that's it.
Hard to tell you.
before we get started, I've got a couple of things to say, and then we're going to start the induction ceremony. So, but anyway, just a little bit of history of the Ponca City school system, okay? The first building was built in 1893, okay? Don Nickles, you were young then, you probably don't remember this, but anyway, it's built in 1893. It was a small building, you know where the East Junior High is now? Well, it was a 32 by 46 size building. That was the first year, 1893. In 1894, they added more kids to the program, and there was a building right across the street from the post office, okay? They had the intermediates there, and I think the primaries. Anyway, so there was two different locations. And in 1895 was our first graduating class. There was two. So there's a little bit of history of those two. There was some bond money raised the next few years in 1889, 1896 in that era, and they built onto the building where the East Junior High is. And it just kept progressing from there. From 1911 to, and trust me, I don't know all this because I wasn't around then, but from 1911 to 1928, the high school was at where the East Junior High is, okay? And in 1928, they built the Hal building, where if you're a Powhigh grad, that's where you graduated from. So 1928, that was built in 1928. That was when Ponca was just everything was going on in the Ponca Theater. Was built in 1927, lots of stuff. Anyway, Mr. Howe, Charles P. Howe, he was the principal from 1928 to 1935, and then he became the superintendent after that. So, Ponca City school system is 125 years old. Unbelievable. So, one more thing before we get started. Last year, the class of 1954 sponsored this event. This year, the class of 1966 is sponsoring this event. They gave $2,500 to the program to help defray some of the expenses. So I just wanted to let you all know, if there's a class out there right now that wants to visit with us after this, well, they're certainly welcome to do so. I'm bragging on that class of 66 a little bit because I know a couple of people in it. By the way, we were the last class to go to the state finals in football. Okay? All right, we're gonna move on to the induction ceremony. Shelby is our school superintendent. She's been in the school system for 24 years, a school teacher, principal, and she has been the superintendent for the last 2 years. And even though she is not a Powhigh grad, she is very supportive of the Powhigh Hall of Fame. So anyway, Shelby, I'd like for you to give her a greeting.
Good evening. As Alan said, my name is Shelby Arrett, and I'm the superintendent of Ponca City Public Schools. I'm a 35-year Oklahoma educator, and I've been in Ponca City for 24 years, where I began as a teacher. And I was very grateful to be afforded several leadership opportunities, including being a site principal and then in central administration in both curriculum and human resources. And then I became the superintendent. And even though I am not a Powhigh graduate, I feel like that I am a product of this district. I love this district. I love our people. I love our community. And I will say that the saying holds true for me. Once a wildcat, always a wildcat. So I'm so grateful to be here tonight. It's a true privilege for me to introduce the inductees of this year's Powhigh Annual Hall of Fame Banquet. 8 iconic individuals will be recipients tonight, and we had 10 phenomenal individuals last year who were inducted. I have served on this committee for 2 years as an ex officio member, since I'm not a Powhigh graduate, and I have been amazed at the notoriety and the accomplishments of the inductees. The nominees selected for induction are truly inspiring individuals who have achieved extraordinary accomplishments. These honorees are role models for which our students may aspire and are hallmarks of pride for our community. We're going to begin the introduction portion of the banquet with a video created by our network engineer, Chris Adams, and we're going to show you a few of our sites, and you're actually going to hear from the 4 High Hall of Fame scholarship recipients from last year. So if you'll start the video, please.
In dear old Oklahoma, fairest daughter of the West, stands our beloved high school in the city we love best. We choose the blue of western skies, the red from sunset's hue. Now what could be more fitting than our colors red and blue? Ponca City, we love you, with your colors red and blue. Ever loyal, faithful, and true to dear old Ponca, we love you. Ponca City, we love you, with your colors red and blue. Ever loyal, faithful, and true to dear old Ponca, we love you.
My name is Kyle Shepherd, and I'm very thankful towards the Hughes family for the scholarship opportunity that I've been given. I plan to go to Oklahoma State University and study aerospace mechanical engineering. I enjoy many fields of science, space, etc., and I want to work on technology that will improve the lives of others.
My name's Leah Wright, and I was the recipient of the Timberlake Family Scholarship. I'm going to Oklahoma State, and I'm majoring in mathematics with the secondary teaching option. And being a Wildcat was like having a sense of community and having that people there to support you. Thank you.
My name is DAYLAN HAWKINS, and I've received the High Alumni Hall of Fame Scholarship. I'll be heading to Southern Nazarene University in the fall to major in theology and ministry, and I'll also be playing football there. For this scholarship, I was asked to write what once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat means to me. And to me, that means to pave the way for those coming behind me, but also join an elite group that have passed in front of me. With so many experiences and lessons learned here at High, the phrase once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat means a lot more than it used to. I'd like to thank the scholarship committee for this opportunity, and hopefully I'll be sitting in the seats you guys are one day, being inducted myself. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carly Fisher, and I am the 2018 recipient of the Ponca City Alumni Hall of Fame Scholarship. What it means to be a Wildcat to me is to have a pride of your school system and your community, and to be able to reach out through activities. It also means to be able to reach out to our citizens and our students to involve them in all of our activities as well. In the fall of 2018, I plan to attend Oklahoma State University and major in economics with a concentration in pre-law. I would like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for selecting me and granting me this opportunity to further my education.
saw some familiar sights in the video, and you undoubtedly saw our new construction. And if you've had the opportunity to tour around Ponca City, it is phenomenal of the Capitol that's under construction. That is all thanks to a $32 million bond issue passed in 2015. And that only solidifies the importance of the school district to this community. So we are so grateful and so proud. Truly, our motto is one district, one community, and one team, because it is unbelievable the support we get from the community. I'm so very proud for all of our PO-High alumni scholarship recipients from last year. Presenting a scholarship to a deserving PO-High graduate is a wonderful way for alumni of Ponca City High School to have the ability to help a student turn their dream into a reality. Tax-deductible scholarship endowments may be established for future scholarship recipients as well. Supporting outstanding students with educational opportunities makes it possible for aspiring Wildcats to reach their potential and achieve the extraordinary, just like many of you in this room. I'll have to tell you that Jim Barnes and his wife Mary, Jim is one of our inductees tonight, have already endowed a $5,000 scholarship to a boy and a $5,000 scholarship to a girl from the class of 2019. So thank you, Mary. Now, on to the pleasure of introducing the inductees. Our first inductee is Mr. Chuck Bowman. Charles G. Chuck Bowman was born October 7, 1935 in Ponca City, Oklahoma, the sixth child of C.L. and Jessie Mae Bowman. All the Bowman children graduated from Ponca City High School. Growing up, Chuck was highly influenced by his older brother, Dick. Dick became an outstanding football player for Coach Earl Sullins at Ponca City High School. It was that success Chuck was committed to follow. Chuck excelled in football and lettered in wrestling, baseball, and track. He won all-state honors in football, but his wrestling, baseball, and track efforts were shortened by a drunken driver in January of his senior year. Chuck spent most of his second semester recovering from the accident. He had lost a lung, his spleen, and had broken his right arm. He spent 10 weeks in the hospital, and it was by the grace of God and the skill of Dr. E.C. Yeary that Chuck lived. The accident definitely thwarted Chuck's athletic career. However, he attended the University of Oklahoma on a football scholarship, but was never the player he had hoped to be. I bet you were really good though, Mr. Bowman. He was part of 2 national championships and Orange Bowl champion teams, but was never a starter. He learned the game of football from the great Bud Wilkinson, and upon graduating with a master's degree in 1958, Chuck began his 14-year coaching career. Teaching and coaching were a perfect fit for Chuck Bowman. During his 3 years as head football coach at Tulsa McLean High School, Chuck took his 1966 team to the state championship game, the school's first state championship ever. In 1967, Chuck was appointed head football coach at NEO A&M in Miami, Oklahoma. His Golden Norsemen won national champions his first and third year of the 5 years he was there. He was later inducted into the Oklahoma Coaches Association Hall of Fame and the National Junior College Hall of Fame. In 1973, Chuck was chosen to be the first director of Oklahoma's Fellowship of Christian Athletes organization. Chuck had been active in FCA as a coach and felt this was a calling on his life. During his 31 years as Oklahoma Oklahoma's FCA leader, Chuck oversaw the addition of coaches, athletes, and adult chapters. Oklahoma FCA grew to lead the nation in FCA ministries, and many lives were changed because of Chuck Bowman. Oklahoma FCA has grown to be a leader in America's #1 sports ministry. Today, Chuck lives in Edmond, Oklahoma with his wife of 58 years, Betty. The Bowmans have 2 children, Dr. Brad Bowman of Dallas, Texas, and Becky Bowman, an elementary counselor with Edmond Deer Creek Schools. The Bowmans are members of Quail Creek Baptist Church and have stayed active in FCA. Chuck's favorite scripture is 1 Samuel 2:30. For those who honor me, I will likewise honor. Mr. Bowman, you have been a blessing to so many lives, and it's an honor to know you.
I really wasn't expecting that, but I'm deeply honored, and I appreciate so much what this means to me. Before I say what I'd like to say, I'd like to introduce some special people here. I won't ask you to stand up, I just want to acknowledge you. My wife, Betty, and it's right, we've been married 58 years. One time a person asked my wife if I would, during our coaching times, if I ever considered divorce because I was gone quite a bit. She says, divorce no, murder yes. So, you know, that's the life of a football coach. My son Brad and his wife Angela from Dallas. My daughter Becky, who is kind of our guardian angel in Edmond. She's a elementary school counselor. My Ponca City connection still is Phyllis Maxman. She will be 92 years old next month, and her daughter's here. Phyllis, thank you. They're faithful Ponca City people. At this table, which I'm very proud to have, my childhood buddy. We grew up in the same backyard, Jim Hendricks and his wife Kathy. Clinton Thomas was my roommate in college. Clinton was a great All-American at Oklahoma. He led the nation in scoring his junior and senior year, and had a great professional career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we've been friends ever since. Jay O'Neill was the quarterback on the 1956 football Sooners that never lost. They were just tremendous. Beat Notre Dame 40-0 in South Bend, and that was quite something. Jerry Pettibone, who was not only a great player at Oklahoma, but he was a football coach, and we've stayed great friends. I'll get to Bernard Sullivan in just a moment, but I want to mention 2 other people. Ike Glass is sitting in the back of the room with his wife, and Dr. Jeff Hale, who is the president of Northeastern A&M Junior College, where I spent 5 great years. They're here tonight, and I want to thank you guys. He is so much a blessing to me. You know, one of the things that I probably enjoyed more than anything here at Ponca City High School was being on a wrestling team that won a state championship under the brand new coach, a guy named Grady Penninger. And we're honoring 2 of those guys tonight in Doug Blubaugh and Shelby Wilson. Doug Blubaugh was the senior state champion that year, but the other guy that was a senior state champion that was sitting right here, Bernard Sullivan, and he should one day be in this Hall of Fame, I promise you. Perhaps not because he was a great wrestler, but as a lieutenant colonel in the Army, he flew helicopters in Vietnam. There's no telling how many young 18, 19-year-old Americans he pulled out of the jungles, some crippled, some blown apart, some even passed away. So right there is a hero for you. And I've just been so proud to have Bernardo's a dear friend, his wife Judy. They're just the greatest people in the world. And if you haven't met them, you need to. My story's been told pretty well by Shelby, and I appreciate that. But I want to add something to it. A lot of people have asked me over the years why I left coaching, because I had a terrific experience coaching. And some wonderful players, just unbelievable players. And we had success with them. But it was the foundation of where I came from that moved me from coaching football to loving and caring for young men that I, for some reason, had a great heart for. I can't explain it, it's kind of difficult for me. But I've always had a heart for young men. To see them as a 16-year-old, when they get to be 18 or 19, they totally change. Their demeanor, their attitude, their character is totally changed. And it's because of, I think, and I have to believe, that they saw something in their coach that brought that out of them. And that was the joy I had as a coach. And when the Fellowship of Christian Athletes opportunity came, I could see that even more. I was raised here in a very strong Christian home. My mother taught a Bible class at First Baptist Church in Ponca City for 60 years. In fact, during World War II, the school board here asked my mother to teach Old and New Testament literature for 2 years at the high school during that war. She was so respected. And you know, she brought that into her home. She made certain that her kids had that same opportunity. You know, my parents were 45 years old when I was born. And I can kind of remember my dad, you know, he didn't realize he was after their 5th child. On a cold February night in 1935, I think he looked at my mother and he said, "Let's go for 6." I'm glad they didn't punt. But I came along. And all during those years growing up, my mother, she taught me the right way to live. And I truly believe that as I was growing up, I developed a drug problem. She drugged me to Sunday school. She drugged me to church. She drugged me to, you know, Falls Creek. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because she planted a seed in me, and she prayed for me that one day that I would have an opportunity to be an example, a role model, and a good influence on young people. And I'll tell you what, it happened in spades, and I'm very thankful. Thank you very much.
I need to introduce 2 people here tonight. We have our high school principal, our current high school principal, Mr. Thad Dilbeck, and our current athletic director, Mr. Jason Levitt. Give them a big round of applause. They are here to help assist our inductees, often on the stage if needed, or maybe even the superintendent, you never know. I want to introduce our next inductee, Clair Aurthur Nickles. Clair Aurthur Nickles was born in 1887 in DeWitt, Nebraska, the youngest of 11 children. His father, Thomas Jefferson Nickles, fought in the Civil War and sustained wounds from which he never completely recovered. He passed away in 1988 when Clair was only 1 year old. His mother remarried in 1893 and the family moved to Ponca City shortly thereafter. They settled on land where Grace Episcopal Church is now located. Clair graduated in 1908 as one of the graduating seniors who first completed 4 years at Ponca City High School. The class of 1908 had 14 graduates. Now we have around 400 per class. Clair was a very inventive man, and he received several patents during his lifetime. The first was in 1911 for a device he invented and named Carbolight. Autos at that time used generators to fuel headlights. Clair's device better regulated the fuel, increased the life of the headlights, and was much safer. Clair moved to Anderson, Indiana to produce Carbolight, but demand for the product came to an abrupt halt when electric headlights were introduced. 1915 saw Clair's return to Ponca City, and he began his small auto repair business. Clair's business prospered, and after several name changes, the business was incorporated. During the mid-30s, the work was expanded to include large engine repairs and manufacture of replacement parts for those engines. The final name of Clair's corporation came in 1950, Nickles Machine Corporation, or NIMCO. The company evolved into the nation's largest independent manufacturer of replacement parts of large stationary gas and diesel engines, which were used by many companies, refineries, and municipal power plants. NIMCO employed as many as 100 people at a time, with many of those people working their entire career for the company. Clair met and married Henrietta Brumfield in 1912, and they had 5 children: Bill, Helen, Bob, Barbara, and Judy. Clair was widowed in 1939. He married Lona Hunter in 1943 and added 2 stepsons to the family, John Allen and Bob Hunter. Clair and Lona celebrated 41 anniversaries and enjoyed outdoor activities together. Clair was civically active as well, and he served as president of the Ponca City Chamber of Commerce in 1951. He helped establish the shop programs at Ponca City High School, which benefited many generations of Po High students. Clair passed away in 1984 at the age of 97. Accepting on behalf of Clair is his grandson, Senator Don Nickles.
Shelly, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, and you were very kind to give me an award last year. And Coach Bowman, I remember saying last year, because you were involved in the ceremony, I said, I shouldn't be up here, you should be up here, and I'm glad that you received this honor, so well deserved, because your mom may have planted a seed in your heart, but I can tell you, I know firsthand, being somewhat active and knowing something about Fellowship of Christian Athletes, you've planted thousands of seeds in young men's hearts all across the state, and they'll be eternally grateful for your efforts, so my compliments to you, so well deserved. And all the awardees, that is, you'll never know what he's done and the impact he's had. I just mentioned one to him, J.C. Watts, one of my buddies, who also played a little football at OU. And he was very active in the FCA, and I think how many lives did he impact? And I could go on and on. And I see Odell's family. I had the pleasure of playing with Odell. We were both superstars. One of us went to the NFL. That was very special. Good memories. Jonesy played on that team, and Jerry Orr, and so many. We had so much fun, Bob Bannon and others. And Jim Barnes from Ponca City, Oklahoma, married. When I was in the Senate, I got to know basically every major CEO in the state, and Jim and Mary Barnes were the best of the best. CEO of MAPCO from Ponca City, Oklahoma, I was always so proud of. Did so much. And I could go on and on. I should tell you, Shelby Wilson and Doug Blubaugh, I bragged on you guys more than you'd ever know. I was so proud of the fact we had 2 Olympian gold medalists from Ponca City. And when I tell people, where are you from, Senator Nickles? I said, I'm from Ponca City, Oklahoma. Well, where's Ponca City? Well, do you not know that we had 2 Olympian gold medalists? Pretty special. Think of that. So special. And I want to tell you something about another special Oklahoma, and that's my grandpa. And Shelby mentioned a couple things. I'll tell you just a little bit more about him. He was such a wonderful person. He came to Ponca City a year after the land rush. He wasn't in the Cherokee Strip run in 1893. He came in 1894. And Shelby mentioned that his dad was in the Civil War. That means my granddad was in the Civil War. My great-granddad was in the Civil War. And I'm kind of a history buff, and I've spent a lot of time trying to learn. He was in an Iowa regiment. And so I go to the archives to do a little homework about my great-granddad, Thomas Jefferson Nickles, who was wounded in Arkansas, shot in the leg. And so I'm looking for correspondence, and he's writing to try and find out what happened to his brother. And his brother was killed in the Civil War. And, but my grandfather was just a very special person. I got to know him really well. Really well. And unfortunately, my dad died when I was 13, but my granddad was there. And I was so proud of my granddad because I had a big ambition in life. My brother Clark and I'll give it to my dad. My granddad started Nickles Machine. You gave a little bit of history. Well, he graduated from Poe High in 1908. He helped build the school that he graduated in. And that school was the administration building right across from East Junior High. That red brick building, he helped build that. That's where he graduated, 1908. And you may remember this, Chuck. One of the graduates in that class was C.E. Rendell, and his son, Gina Rendell, was the doctor for your class. And was a great friend of ours. But he did so much. He helped build that class. 4 years after he graduates from Ponca City High School, he invents a carbolite. This is a guy that never went to college, but he's a mechanical genius. And he invented a carbolite, which basically was providing lights for Model T engines. And it was taking off like gangbusters. And then the generator came along and put that out of business. So he came back to Ponca City, worked at Marlin, and then he said, no, we need a machine shop. So he started the machine shop. I had a sign, a picture, Nickles Machine Shop, and it says Nickles Machine Shop, and right below it says, we'll fix anything. And that picture is taken 1915. We'll fix anything. And that was his model. And they worked on all kinds of engines, not just Model Ts, but then bigger engines. Ponca City Municipal had a humongous engine, big old diesel engine, German, I think Nordberg. And we made replacement parts to keep that engine running. And nobody else in the world could do it. We made pistons and cylinders. We were the largest independent manufacturer of engine parts, frankly, in the world. You had your original engine manufacturer, but nobody else could do it. They made these very complicated parts. And my granddad did it. He built machines to do it. You couldn't go out and buy machines. Part of our family was going through Nickles Machine today, and I look at these machines. We're buying them from places where they build the machines. He built the machines. He manufactured the machines to make machines, a mechanical genius. I read a book on the Wright brothers and how they had a machine. They had a bicycle shop, a machine shop, and then they built airplanes. And they were mechanical geniuses, and so was my grandfather. And the work that he did was just beyond compare. We were always so proud of the fact that we could do things that nobody else in the world could do. Very, very special in Ponca City, Oklahoma. And he had a love of family. As I mentioned, my dad died when I was young, so my grandfather, he was the icon of the family. He loved to fish. He loved to hunt. He built a cabin on the east side of Lake Ponca that lasted for years. And basically was given to the city. He built a cabin on the Salt Fork River, which is still there, which is outstanding, overlooking the river. On the other side was a one-on-one ranch. I mean, he was going to Mexico hunting and fishing when Model Ts wouldn't go that far, but he could fix them on the way. And it sounds like so long ago, but I remember it like yesterday. Clark and I took over management of Nickles Machine in about 1973, and my granddad was still very involved. He wasn't running the plant, but he would still come down and he just commanded respect. And everybody called him Nick. And he always had his cigar, but he loved the place. He incorporated in 1930, right in the middle of the Depression, and he still built this business right in the middle of the Depression in Ponca City, Oklahoma. Just absolutely amazing. I mentioned he liked to fish. I took him on 2 fishing trips. Some of you have heard about the White River. Bill Clinton made it kind of famous. It's a river in Arkansas. Anyway, we used to take customers to the White River, and I would take some customers, and Clark would, and so on. My dad, my last best memory of my dad, he took me on one of those trips. We'd take customers fishing on the White River. Well, I took my granddad fishing on the White River. He was 93 years old. And the guys that were with us, they remembered him because he did it for years and years and years. I can't tell you the love and respect that I had for him and the contributions that he's made. And I think of Ponca City. His great-grandson Bob had his high school diploma blown up because he graduated from Ponca City High School 110 years ago. And so we're going to give that to Ponca City, and I'm very proud of the fact that he made such a contribution to Poe High. And speaking of Poe High, and I've seen a little bit on yearbooks, I've told my wife we need to make sure we erase all of our yearbook notes. It's kind of a dangerous thing here, but we did have a lot of fun in high school, didn't we, Jonesy? And getting too much, so I'm erasing those. But no, I can't tell you, can't express how honored we are to be with so many great Ponca Cityans, Oklahomans, and people who've contributed so much to our country. And I put my granddad up there with the best. I think he made such an important impact for the economic fiber. He taught us how to work. He gave lots and lots of people jobs. He created respect all across the country. And on behalf of all the Nickles family, we're very grateful that you would include him and induct him into the Ponca City Hall of Fame. Thank you all very much.
And if you haven't seen the diploma, it's right down here in front of the podium. And if you don't know, we display these pictures just outside the Howe Auditorium on what we now call Hall of Fame hallway. And these pictures are displayed, last year's 10 inductees, and these 8 inductees will be displayed this year. And our students just read the messages and the bios and ask their teachers questions about the inductees. So it's truly an aspiration for our students. Mr. Dilbeck, this diploma will look fabulous in the Hall of Fame hallway. The next inductee is Donald Puddy. Donald Ray Puddy was born in Ponca City on May 31st, 1937 to Mildred and Lester Puddy and attended Ponca City schools for all of his school years. Don held many leadership positions in high school and served as the 1955 senior class president. He was awarded a 4-year scholarship from Conoco Oil Company and attended the University of Oklahoma, where he graduated in 1960 with a degree in mechanical engineering. Don served a tour of duty in the Air Force at Eglin Air Force Base, where he was involved in rocket high-altitude research. In 1964, he began a 31-year career with NASA in Houston, Texas. During Gemini 9, the preparatory program for lunar missions, he served as an Agena Systems engineer, traveling to the mission's remote tracking site in Australia. During the Apollo 11 moon landing, Don was responsible for monitoring the systems of the lunar module. In 1972, Don was named flight director for Apollo 16, Skylab missions, the approach and landing test flights, the Apollo Soyuz test project, and as entry flight director for the first 2 shuttle orbital flights, STS-1 and STS-2. During this period, Don received an MBA degree from the University of Houston, Clear Lake. He later moved into senior management duties and served for a brief time as acting Deputy Director of NASA's Ames Research Center. Following the Challenger accident, he was assigned to NASA headquarters, and in 1987, President Reagan awarded him the Meritorious Executive Award for sustained superior accomplishments in the management of U.S. government programs. In preparation for shuttle flights to resume, Don assumed the position of Director of Flight Crew Operations. During this time, Don attended Harvard International Advanced Management Program and was again detailed to Washington, D.C. He concluded his career at Johnson Space Center as a special assistant responsible for developing joint activities for U.S.-Russian space programs. Don was the recipient of numerous awards during his government service, including 5 Exceptional Service Medals, the Presidential Medal of Freedom for Apollo 13, and an Outstanding Leadership Medal for STS-26. Following his retirement in 1995, he enjoyed many activities, but he especially enjoyed spending time with his grandchildren, whom he adored. He was honored to be inducted into the Oklahoma Aviation and Space Hall of Fame in 2002. Don and classmate Dana Timberlake were married in 1956. In their 48-year marriage, they had 3 sons, Michael, Douglas, and Glenn, and they had 6 grandchildren. Don passed away in Houston in 2004 at the age of 67. Accepting tonight on behalf of Don is his wife, Dana Puddy.
Thank you, though, and the committee that organized this event. It's really an honor for me to accept the award on Don's behalf. We wish he could be here to talk with you, but if he were here, I expect he'd be telling us that most of the credit for his successful career was just the luck of being in the right place at the right time. He had intended a career in the Air Force and was stationed in Fort Walton Beach, Florida at Odell Air Force Base, and they were literally launching weather altitude rockets off of a flatbed truck using a slide rule and a hand crank to figure the trajectory. Somehow that made him an expert on rockets. But the Air Force had sent him orders to transfer us to Fairbanks, Alaska, the very same week that a recruiter from NASA had contacted him. And so there was a real hectic week of decision making, and within that week he resigned his Air Force commission and accepted the offer from NASA, and we packed up and moved to Houston, and the rest was history. And he might not tell you about one blemish on his high school record. And that was the Bermuda shorts caper. In 1955, that was unheard of for short pants to be worn anytime, except maybe the swimming pool. But he and 2 other young men were to assist in the crowning of the yearbook. King and Queen, I think that's what it was. So the 3 of them went after school one time and drove to Stillwater, which was the closest place to rent a tuxedo. And there they learned that the newest style was the Bermuda shorts with knee-high socks. So without letting anyone know, I don't know how they managed to keep that a secret, they showed up at the event with their tuxedos. And I thought they looked pretty sharp. But Principal Homer Anderson didn't think they looked so sharp. And he had them in the office the next morning with a very stern lecture. And these young men all had scholarship offers pending, they had college applications pending, and he threatened to not let them graduate from high school. And so for a couple of weeks, they were really sweating it, and he finally relented, and they did graduate. But I often thought, you know, if Mr. Dillbeck that was the worst discipline problem you had to deal with today, you might think you had a good day at the office. If he were here, he would, I'm sure, be telling you that though his proudest achievement was his family. We're really proud of our 3 sons, and they were all planning to be here, and as of early this morning had to cancel a plane flight. Our oldest son is on stork duty. His daughter is having her 3rd baby, probably as we speak. So we may have a new addition and a new great-grandchild in the family. So Mike sends his greetings, but he's doing grandpa duty today. We want to introduce you to Doug, who's here with his family. Just wave at us. And his wife Sherry. And Lauren is the token granddaughter here that's representing the 6 grandchildren. She's a student at the University of Tulsa. And so we're glad she's here to represent all her cousins. And I'm also pleased to introduce 2 fellows that you probably already all know. And Mike. And Glenn is the tall one. Don't forget him. Yes. He's headed to Ole Miss to watch his my granddaughter, play volleyball. So we have some athletes in the family. Don's 2 brother-in-laws, my brothers, were both here with their wives, and you've already met Dave, of course, Dave Timberlake, and his wife Sarah, and Don Timberlake and his wife Sue. So we're real pleased they could all join us. So I thank the committee for this honor, and I'm pleased to accept it in his behalf.
Aren't our inductees phenomenal? And Mr. Dillbeck, watch out for those Bermuda short capers. Our next inductee is Douglas Blubaugh. Douglas Moreland Skeeter Blubaugh was born in rural Ponca City on December 31st, 1934, the son of Edward Raymond and Audrey Marie Blubaugh. He was a 1953 graduate of Ponca City High School and a 1959 graduate of Oklahoma State University. He was named the 1957 Collegiate National Wrestling Champion and was a 3-time All-American at OSU. A year before his Olympic conquest, Doug won a gold medal in the 1959 Pan American Games, matching the 1955 achievement of his brother Jack. They were the first brothers to capture the Pan Am titles. He served his country in the United States Army and prepared for the 1960 Olympics by training at West Point. In the shadowed ruins of Rome's ancient basilica, Doug battled the world champion from Iran for the Olympic gold medal in wrestling. His opponent, Imam Ali Habibi, had never known defeat. 3 times the Persian, Habibi, attacked, throwing the young American into danger. Then a swift counterattack from Blubaugh hurled his opponent to his back. Suddenly, the struggle ended. Hence the name of the iconic poster, The Epic Struggle. Thus did an Oklahoma farm boy reach the apex of a career, earning the 1960 Olympic gold medal at 160.5 pounds and recognition as the world's outstanding wrestler. Doug was inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame as a distinguished member in 1979 and in 2018, he was posthumously inducted into the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame. Doug was formerly an assistant wrestling coach at West Point and Michigan State before serving as head coach at Indiana University. He earned worldwide recognition for his accomplishments as a wrestler, a coach, a clinician, and a mentor. Doug was once quoted as saying, "Thank God I grew up on a wheat farm in Oklahoma that didn't have electricity or running water till World War II. It built work ethic. It was hard work. I never lifted weights. Couldn't afford them, but I hefted bales of hay. Strength from working on a farm is different. You get endurance and strength." Doug has 5 children, 2 sets of twin boys and a daughter. They are Dale, Dean, Dawn, Dan, and Dana. He also has 10 grandchildren. Mr. Blubaugh passed away in 2011. Doug's daughter, Dawn Hawkins, is accepting this award on his behalf. And I will have to tell you that Mr. Blubaugh's bronze statue and his story are located in the southeast corner of Robson Fieldhouse. Anytime I am in that field house at an event, young and old alike are reading his story, and he is admired by everyone. Dawn, if you'll come forward.
I should have Senator Nickles come up here and do all the talking. I'd like to thank everybody for all the hard work, and Robin for all the encouragement you gave me. Thank you so much. Dad sure loved Ponca City. He talked about it all the time. My husband and I, there were times, there's a lot of you that may know or may not know, he had narcolepsy. And we thought he was kind of off his rocker a little bit sometimes. And we tried to get him to stay with us. And anytime we tried to get him to stay with us, he was in his car and back here faster than we could even know. But anyway, I'm gonna get back on task here. I just want to say that our worth comes not from our achievements, but from the God of the universe who chooses to give us the mysterious and miraculous gift of life. God truly blessed our family and this world with a mentally, physically, spiritually strong, diverse dad, grandpa, friend, mentor, leader, and coach. Though his presence on this earth has been sorely missed, he has left a legacy that goes beyond the sport of wrestling. He had a remarkable way of overcoming adversity. And when I think of Dad, I think of these words that come to my mind. His humility, a shy demeanor. Whenever he'd talk about, if someone asked him a question about himself, he'd always look down. His humor was out of this world. His quick wit, I was not blessed with that. He was smart and kind and trusting and generous. Crazy good storyteller. And he told me some doozies. And I'll have to tell you about a couple of those. His awesome laugh, he had a distinct laugh. He was a Superman with Coke bottle glasses that allowed him to see the world a little differently than the rest of us. And I have to tell you, he had this camp, and I wrestling camp. And you would think, girls 16 years old, wrestlers, the only girl, we would check them in, and I would sit there and check them out. And I'd figure that, I kind of have my eyes on one or two of them, and I'd get all my chores done, and I'd go and curl my hair and put my makeup on, and I'd go run up to the wrestling room, and I'd sit in the window, and Dad would come over. He was legally blind without his glasses, and he'd come over there, and he'd just look in the window, and he'd say, "Hey, babe, what do you need?" "I don't need anything. I'm just sitting here watching, Dad." "Oh," he'd say, "Come over here." So I came over there. He put his arm around me, sweaty, brought me out to the wrestling mats. He stopped all the wrestlers, probably 200 of them, and he said, "Boys, this is my daughter. I don't want you to look at her. I don't want you talking to her." So you would think that I had leprosy or something. I never had a chance. That's only one of many, but I've been told that some of them are inappropriate. But you have an audience, so I really probably shouldn't share. But we had a lot of good memories with the Wilson family. Right there, Shelby and Gretchen and Bonnie, we developed a really close relationship. They moved out there and helped with the camp, but a lot of good memories. And I just want to say thank you all for being here and appreciate it.
Dawn, you ought to see our wrestling room now. I'm sure it looks a lot different. It is gorgeous, it's beautiful, incredible, thanks to the citizens of Ponca City. Our next inductee is James E. Barnes. James Barnes was the former chairman of the board, president, and chief executive officer of MAPCO Incorporated, a Fortune 500 company. He joined MAPCO as Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer in 1983. And then in 1984, he was elected President and CEO. And in 1986, he was elected Chairman of the Board and served as Chairman of the Executive Committee until the company's merger with Williams in 1998. And at that time, Mr. Barnes retired. Prior to joining MAPCO, Jim enjoyed a successful career with Conoco Incorporated, where he was Executive Vice President, Petroleum Products, North America. He had many responsibilities in North America and worldwide. As a native of Ponca City, James attended the University of Texas on a 4-year naval scholarship. He transferred to Oklahoma A&M, where he received a double engineering degree in industrial engineering management and civil engineering in 1957. He also completed the advanced management program at Harvard Business School in 1970. He and his wife, Mary, moved to Tulsa in 1983. After his retirement in 1998, they resided in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and Carmel, California. They have 5 grown children and 10 grandchildren, with another on the way. Mr. Barnes served in many successful communication, petroleum, and financial companies. He also received many honors, and some of these include being elected to both the Oklahoma State University Hall of Fame and to the Oklahoma State University College of Engineering Hall of Fame. Mr. Barnes received the National Petroleum Hall of Fame Distinguished Service Award and was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. In addition, Jim held many important leadership positions in educational, civic, and charitable organizations. For 9 years, he served as a member of the Oklahoma State Regents for Higher Education, and he also served on the Oklahoma State University Foundation Board of Governors. Jim served on many other prestigious boards in the Tulsa area, and after retiring, he continued with his civic duties, serving on boards in Wyoming. Jim's hobbies during his active years included hunting, fishing, hiking, horseback riding, golf, and gardening. He loved the outdoors, particularly the mountains, and was very enthusiastic about sharing his love for the outdoors with his family and his friends. Jim was unable to attend tonight, but accepting on his behalf is his son-in-law, Chris Marcus. Come right on up, Mr. Marcus.
Thank you. I am Chris Marcus. I am Jim's son-in-law. I'm married to Lori. And I am so privileged to be able to accept this honor on Jim's behalf. Since Jim isn't able to get out and about anymore, I'm going to try so hard to put it in the words that he would want to say tonight to you. First of all, he would want to thank this wonderful organization for putting on this great event. So thank you to you guys. But he would argue that he isn't the one that should be honored tonight, but the wonderful people from this community of Ponca City that raised him into the successful man that he is. He would want to thank someone for the opportunity to sneak onto the Marlin property to hunt rabbits as a boy. He would want to thank the teachers at Lincoln Elementary to give him that good start that a kid needs. I mean, it must really be an amazing grade school to crank out a person like Jim Barnes, so successful. He would want to thank the junior high, Ponca City Junior High. At that time, there was only one. He would want to thank those teachers for believing in him, and even in those awkward years of junior high. That's probably when he got acquainted with the Board of Education. You know, he was sneaking onto the grounds of Marlin Mansion. He would want to thank the teachers at Poe High for continuing to nurture him into a young man. Especially Coach Solons, who was mentioned earlier tonight. On the occasion of Coach Solon's 96th birthday, Jim was asked to come back to honor his high school football coach. And Coach Solons on that night said, "If I'd have known Jim Barnes was going to be so successful, I'd have made him quarterback." Coach also said that night that Jim Barnes ran really hard. He just ran in one place. Jim was so successful, and we're so proud of him for that. But even in all the successes of his life, he didn't lose track of what is truly important. His beautiful wife, Mary, his 5 children, his 10 grandkids, and one on the way. And his sister Janice is here tonight. It's family that meant so much to him. Even in his successes, that was the most important thing. He would never miss a grandchild's birthday party, even if he was flying in from some city from some important meeting, and then flying back out to some other meeting. He would not miss that birthday party. That is not the norm for a high-powered exec, but it was the norm for Granddad Jim. Finally, he would want to stress, he would want me to stress the importance of supporting public education. He would challenge us, everyone here, to do something to support public education, whether it be giving money for scholarships or being active in the political climate to support public education, or even just reading to a second grader. Do something. This is where I so wish that he could be here, because he would say it in such a way that every single one of us would go home tonight and think, what can I do? Not what can she do, or what can he do, or what can they do. No, what can I do? He would stress that to us, and he is so good at it. One last thing, and this is obvious that I'm speaking for Jim. If Jim Barnes was up here receiving this wonderful honor, he would not miss the opportunity. Go Pokes.
Thank you so much, Chris. Our next inductee is Odell Lawson. Odell Lawson Sr.'s roots began at birth in Ponca City, where he lived to the beginning of his adulthood. Butch, as he was known, was a product of the public school system in Ponca City, and his active childhood inspired him to excel in athletics. Odell graduated from Poe High and went on to attend college at Langston University, where he was a stellar athlete. His athleticism earned him an invitation to the NFL draft, and he was drafted by the New England Patriots for the position of running back. During his tenure with the NFL, he played with the New England Patriots, the San Francisco 49ers, and the New Orleans Saints. In the early 80s, while he was a player with the New Orleans Saints, Odell met his sweetheart and lifetime mate, Annette Malone. They later married and became the parents of 4 children, which added to his daughter from a previous marriage. During this time, Odell ended his football career and chose to remain in New Orleans with his family. Continuing to work for the Saints in another capacity, Odell realized that he had a certain passion for the security business. He became employed with the security division of the New Orleans public school system. At that same time, he served in the security department of the Louisiana Superdome, where he rose to the ranks of lieutenant. It was there that Odell Lawson met Mr. Ed Robinson, beginning a partnership for life. Odell and Ed both worked at the Superdome and began a small bodyguard service, which later expanded to a full-size company with over 200 employees serving the greater New Orleans area, and eventually expanded to the national circuit. During this time, Odell obtained several certifications in the field of security. He made a decision to leave the Superdome and devote more time to the school system and to serve as the director of operations at Lawson and Robinson. As the company continued to grow and demanded most of his time, Odell retired from the school system, and L&R Security grew to one of the largest minority-owned security companies in the city of New Orleans. Odell took pride in managing such events as Security for Essence festivals, NBA finals, 19 Super Bowls, PGA and LPGA tournaments, U.S. Open golf finals, one held here in Oklahoma, 29 jazz heritage festivals, and many more special events and conventions. According to Odell, L&R was one of the best decisions that I made in my life, aside from my family. Odell felt that his biggest achievement was being a father to his children, husband to Annette, and grandfather to his 7 grandchildren. Although Butch settled in New Orleans, he never forgot his roots that began in Ponca City, Oklahoma. Odell Lawson passed away in 2004. Accepting this award on his behalf is his wife, his lovely wife, Annette Lawson.
I'm indeed honored and pleased to accept this award tonight on behalf of my husband, Odell Lawson, husband for 33 years. My husband loved Ponca City, Oklahoma. And a while back, when I first met him in New Orleans, he told me, he said, we're going to, after he stopped playing football, he said, oh, we're moving to Ponca City. I said, oh my God. I said, Odell, can we stay here? And I prayed, I said, Lord, please, don't let me go to Ponca City. So after that, he found work in New Orleans. He started he was a police officer. Then he had favor again, and he worked in the school system. After that, we started the security company, and from there on, and we have 4 lovely kids and another daughter from his previous marriage. And I am just so pleased and happy to be here tonight with you all, and I love you all. You have made me feel so welcome here tonight, and to meet all of his friends that he talked about in our entire marriage. He talked about Ponca City and Pro High. He always talked about Nick, the senator, and also his coach. I met him tonight. I'm pleased to meet you tonight. And also his longtime friend, to the day he passed away, Robert Jones. He was a longtime friend. He was with me till my husband died. He came and spent his last days with him. Also, Jim Bowman. God bless him on his absence. He would be here tonight. Also, Dwayne, I thank him because he was here for me during the time that we lost our home and everything. I'm a recovery from Katrina. And I thank God for the, restoring us back, in the business and everything. Dwayne and Benny Westbrook, God bless you also. You opened your home up to us when we had nowhere to stay. And I really thank you, and I thank each and every one of you. I love you. And my children, I didn't have any pictures because I lost everything. And I am honored and pleased to be here tonight, and all of the other friends here. I just have so much love for Ponca City. But my children didn't want to stay here after Katrina because they couldn't get a signal outside. They were up in a tree trying to get a signal. So they said, and their dad told them, said, y'all going to Pro High. Pro High? You're going where I went to school. So I said, but thank you all. I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
One of our teachers at the high school, an English teacher, Leanne Parr, is on our committee, and she was telling the story that she was telling her students about Odell, and they were truly inspired by his story. So they will see Odell's picture and all the rest of our inductees outside, right outside Leanne Parr's classroom. Our next inductee is Shelby Wilson. Shelby Wilson was born just south of Ponca City on July 14, 1937, to Fred and Willie Wilson. Shelby and his 2 brothers, Doug and Steve, and his sister Clara all attended Ponca City schools and are graduates of Po High. Shelby began his wrestling career in 7th grade as a whopping 72-pounder. His coaches, Don Smith and Lauren Smith, saw potential in this little newcomer to the sport, but they were just not sure he would pan out for them. The winter was very hard in 1949, and young Shelby missed a lot of practices due to weather. Eventually, he checked in his gear. Shelby made the 8th grade team and pinned every opponent the rest of his middle school days. He ended his high school career with only 3 defeats, but no state championship. Shelby, along with brothers Doug and Steve, were coached by legendary Ponca City High School coach Grady Henninger. Shelby began his college career at OSU under coach Art Griffith in 1955. He quickly adapted to the style and philosophy of wrestling taught by the great coach. The philosophy he learned under Coach Griffith and later carried on by Myron Roderick enabled him to be known as one of the top takedown wrestlers in the nation. Because of an injury, he missed his sophomore year at OSU, but returned for 2 years of competition. During those 2 years, he went undefeated at 147 pounds, but lost twice in the NCAA finals at 137 pounds. Shelby always felt that 147 was the right weight for him, but to strengthen the team, he was moved to 137, and he was never an NCAA champion. In 1959, Shelby returned to OSU in hopes of being granted a hardship redshirt year for the year he was injured. The request was denied, so Myron Roderick challenged him to try out for the 1960 Olympic team. He felt his best shot would be at 147 pounds, where he had never lost. Shelby believed at 147 he could have one last chance to prove to himself that maybe he could still go out on top. The 1960 Olympics was the first time a training camp was held to decide the Olympic team. A draw in the finals gave Shelby a second-place finish and qualified him for the training camp. He then wrestled in the Greco trials and qualified in that style as well. Shelby defeated the #1 wrestler in the Greco trials, thus securing his trip to the 1960 Olympics. However, Greco style was not his #1 choice, but just a backup. When he defeated the #1 man for freestyle, he relinquished his position on the Greco team. He was now on his way to redemption. In Rome, he defeated 5 wrestlers, including world champion Vladimir Shinyashki of the USSR, to become an Olympic champion. I think he redeemed himself. He came out on top. After returning home to Ponca City from the Olympics, he returned to OSU, finished his teaching degree, and was hired by who else? Ponca City Public Schools as a teacher and a coach. He coached the Ponca City Wrestlers to a second-place finish in this state, losing to Edmond by only 1 point. Shelby also served as head wrestling coach of Colorado University for 7 years. After moving to Bloomington, Indiana, and working with Doug Blubaugh, another inductee tonight, at his sports camp, Shelby started his own repair business, did property management, and coached wrestling at Owen Valley High School in Spencer, Indiana for 20 years. Shelby has been married to Gretchen Cordell from Abilene, Texas for 56 years. They have 3 daughters, Valerie, Bonnie, and Nancy, who have given them 9 grandchildren. At 81, he and Gretchen still work with students in Bloomington, Indiana. Shelby continues to provide wrestling clinics and offers one-on-one instruction to anyone who wants to help. And I do believe that Shelby attends some of our wrestling practice. Is that right, Coach Wynn? Our current wrestling coach is here, Coach Jared Wynn, and Shelby comes and inspires our boys. It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Mr. Wilson. Your bronze statue stands in the northeast corner of Robson Field House, just opposite of Doug Blubaugh's statue, and is admired by all who enter. Shelby Wilson.
My only regret tonight is that Doug isn't here to share this with me. We were in high school together. We were in college at Oklahoma State University together. And we were on the Olympic team together. And he was one weight class above me. And We worked together for 2 years in Bloomington, but we were pretty close. I want to thank you for this opportunity, committee, for putting me with this group of people. If it wasn't for wrestling, I'll guarantee you I would not be standing here. Coach Penninger told me once, if you had not wrestled, you would have gone through this entire school system and no one would have known your name. That's the kind of guy I was. I grew up on a farm. I didn't even know there was a sport called wrestling until I started in the 7th grade and got challenged. I was a quiet kid, sat in the back of the room. I wasn't like some of these other guys. I was an average student, average guy all the way, still am, and I feel, you don't know how honored I feel to be included with Don Puddy. He and I were classmates, I think from 1st grade all the way up. He was a nerd. Everybody knows that, but he was a great guy. A lot of fun, and we were friends. I don't know why he hadn't made friends with me, but he did, you know. But I appreciate being inducted with these kind of people. I would like to introduce my wife, my family, to two tables here. If they just hold their hand up. My wife, my 2 daughters, Bonnie and Nancy. Valerie's not here. She's a missionary in the Philippines. She's a few miles. She couldn't make it tonight. But my brother, Doug, Steve, on that table. My sister Clair is ill. She can't make it. I have nephew. Hold up your hands. There you go, guys. I appreciate my family being here and friends that I haven't seen in a while. Ralph and Emily over here. Jim Harper. You know, it's great to be back. I've lived in Indiana since 1983. And Indiana are called Hoosiers. Nobody in Indiana knows what a Hooser is. So it's very difficult for me to become one. So when they ask me, where are you from? I say, Ponca City, Oklahoma. I'm a genuine Okie. And they look at me very strange. I have a lot of people who helped me to be an Olympic champion. Coaches, guys that I worked out with in high school that pushed me. Some of them were 4 and 5 in a row. Coach Penninger would put me out in the middle and he'd put them on me. And I've never been so tired in my entire life as I have been at some of those practices. But I learned hard work on the farm, but I can tell you, I learned hard work under Penninger. I'll guarantee you. So I was able to continue that and be prepared. I never won a national title and I never won a state title. But because of Art Griffith and the background and the people that pushed me, I was able to win the Olympics. I didn't know one thing about freestyle or Greco when Mary Roderick said to me, why don't you try for the Olympics? I had to look it up, make sure I know how to spell it. I never even thought about it. But when I talk to kids, this is one thing I tell them. You just meet your potential. That's all you have to do. I coached, and I never tried to get a kid to do more than what he was capable of doing. But I I wanted him to be the best he could be, to meet his potential. If his potential was never to place in the state tournament, that's all right with me. If he did the best he could be and he worked at it, he could be on my team and he could have my back anytime. And I had those kind of guys. I had some that weren't that way, but to meet your potential, that's all it takes. I thank God, truly, as a believer in Jesus, that he gave me the opportunity to meet my potential in my sport. The first part of my life, because of wrestling, I became a person, and not just a shadow. I became an individual. I had an identity, and I'm thankful for that. The second part of my life started in 1955, after I finished second in the state at Blackwell, when I accepted Jesus Christ into my life. My life changed, totally changed. I had an identity and a purpose that I had never known before. I'm 81, still feel good, still do clinics. Guys say, somebody jumps on you today, you think you can take them? I go, it wouldn't be pretty. I wouldn't be doing double legs and single legs. But I'm very dangerous with stuff that I have invented just for that occasion. God has given me something in my life, and that is purpose for every single thing I do. I have cleaned toilets. I've done, it doesn't matter to me what I do. I have a purpose in it, and I can have fun doing it. And when I look back on something, I want God to check it out. I want him to look at it. And I say, if God will okay it, then man has to. And if he doesn't want to, I don't worry about it. I do have to make a confession. I can never go out for politics. I got to thinking about this the other day. Kinley School, second grade. 2 6th graders held a little second grader and I kissed her on the cheek. I confess. I could never be a politician. The greatest thing in my life is to work with kids. And I still do it. I love working with kids. I love teaching kids. I love to teach wrestling. I love wrestling coaches, clinics. It gives me an opportunity. One thing about the wrestling style that I teach is there is no end to the learning in it. It's a philosophy, not just a style. I don't have time to explain that, but it is. So I keep working stuff out. It's just really intriguing to me. And the second thing is, as a Christian, I find that if I live to be 200 years old, I'd still be learning. And I'd still be growing. It never ends. It never ends. I tell kids, nobody can tell you how fast it's going to go by. You can't conceive it. But when you get to be 80, you can conceive it. Because you know that if you live to be 100, you only have 20 years left. If I live to be 100, I got 19. Chances are, I'm going to live to be 100. The chances are I won't. So I don't have much time. A lot of you in here don't have a lot of time. You're right along there with me. So you really, if you haven't pinpointed what's important in your life, I would suggest that you do. And if you don't, you might get a surprise at the end. If I found out when I die that there wasn't a thing to it, it was all just a big joke, I would not change one thing that I have done in my life. I would not change one thing, and especially my relationship to Jesus. You know what? I got a little kindergarten that lives on my street. We've had kids on our street for as long as we've known. They come down to my house and they want me to fix their bikes. They want me to put the chain on. They want me to adjust their seats. They want me. I love it. This little girl is 5 years old. She's one of 6. There's 3 daddies involved. Nobody pays her much attention. You know what she does every morning and every afternoon? She rings our doorbell. She has a little backpack. And she stands there and starts telling me about what she's going to be doing at school or what she did at school. Now let me tell you something. That, to me, is important. Those are the things that make my life worthwhile. I had rather sit and talk to that little girl, and every time I do, it reminds me of my daughter Bonnie, who used to come home from school and chatter and tell me every single thing that went on in school that day. And no matter what I was doing, finally I just have to stop and listen. And every time I listen to that little girl, I think of Bonnie. And I think, this is important. The most important thing right now. It's just great. It's just great. I appreciate this honor more than you will ever know. And I thank you that I'm from Ponca City and that I am an Okie.
Inspiration to us all. If you didn't know it, this event is being live streamed on the POHI Alumni Facebook page, so hello Ponca City and the world. If you're interested, you may also purchase a DVD of tonight's event, and we'll get that information out on our district Facebook and our website. And this can be a keepsake forever because it has been a wonderful evening. We have one more inductee, and that inductee is Major General Stephan Cortright. Stephen Phelps Cortright was born in Ponca City on March 26, 1941, to Austin and Marjorie Cortright. Steve and his sister, Sherry Cortright, Dean, attended Ponca City schools and graduated in '59 and '54, respectively. Steve's active and adventurous spirit led him to make several trips to Philmont Scouting Ranch in New Mexico, completing his requirements for both the Eagle Scout and the God and Country Awards. While attending Oklahoma State University, Steve joined Sigma Chi Social Fraternity and graduated in 1963 with a Bachelor of Science degree in business. Steve's interest in the military was sparked from listening to stories from his immediate family members serving throughout the world as fighter pilots in the Air Force and the Navy. Upon joining the Air Force and completing undergraduate pilot training at Webb Air Force Base, Steve proceeded to be the first flying assistant in Toul Air Base in France, flying the RF-4C fighter reconnaissance aircraft. Approximately 18 months later, French President de Gaulle directed all American forces to immediately depart France, and Steve's flying unit was ordered to proceed directly to Vietnam for combat duty. While in Vietnam, Steve flew 217 combat missions and was awarded 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses and 13 combat air medals. Following the end of the Vietnam War, Steve left active duty and returned to Oklahoma, graduating from the University of Tulsa Law School with a Juris Doctor. While practicing law in Tulsa, he continued his military career with the Air National Guard before becoming commander of the 125th Tactical Fighter Squadron. Later, he became the commander of the 138th Fighter Wing, leading several European joint training exercises with NATO forces. He was appointed Brigadier General as the commander of the Oklahoma Air National Guard, and in 1992 was promoted to Major General. He is a command pilot with over 5,000 hours of military flying time in numerous aircraft. On April 1st, 1995, Steve was appointed to serve as the Adjutant General of Oklahoma under Governor Frank Keating. On Monday, April 17th, Steve briefed Governor Keating on his chief executive duties and responsibilities as governor should the state encounter a natural or a man-made disaster. 2 days later, on April 19th, the Murrah Federal Building was bombed, killing 168 people and injuring over 600 others. At the time, this bombing was the worst national domestic terrorism event for our country, and Governor Keating's team, leading Oklahoma's response, was recognized as establishing the national standard for interagency cooperation of local, state, and federal agencies. Before his retirement in 2013, General Cortright received major awards and decorations. Upon his retirement from the Air Force in 2003, Steve was appointed the Federal Security Director for TSA following the September 11, 2002 New York Trade Center terrorism attack. Steve was married to Betty Albin for 7 years, and they had one child, David Cortright. Steve married Barbara Coleman Cortright in 1974, and they were married until her sudden passing in 2016. Their children are Tiffany Horton, Heather Luckenbill, and Adam Cortright. Steve currently lives in Tulsa and stays busy visiting his 11 grandchildren. General Cortright, it's an honor for you to be here tonight.
Boy, it's nice to be the last speaker here tonight. I just want to remind Shelby and Doug and Wilson and all the other wrestlers that I also wrestled under the legendary coach, Grady Pittenger, but I never went on to do any of those things, I guarantee you. But he was legendary, and I think all of the awardees, speaking to the staff and the coaching staff and the leadership that we've all experienced in our wonderful POHI education, has led to what has been up here on the stage today. First, I want to thank my family for coming, my son and my daughter-in-law and 3 children that live in Tulsa. My other 4 children, 3 children couldn't make it, and 11 grandchildren. Also with my POHI class and graduates, thank you for coming here to be with me. And my college roommate, I'm not sure I want him here tonight.
Amen.
Considering everything that's going on.
Amen.
You're not allowed to speak to him back there tonight. I've already burned my yearbook. You know, we wonder when we were called and asked about this to be in this, to receive this award, and you wonder, me? I mean, are you sure you've got the right person here? I see it from the side that I recall, and I was talking to David and Don Timberlake, my cohorts in crime here. When we were in high school, and Eagle Scouts, and we went on a float trip down the Arkansas, and we were traveling with a World War II veteran who was going to share his stories of captivity when he was in the war. As we floated down the Arkansas, and we'd camp out at night. The Ponca City News was down there with a photographer and a reporter to report on our story. We appeared on the front page of the newspaper. Wonderful story of these boys floating down the Arkansas, and there we were with our varsity Ponca City Wildcat jerseys on the front page. Proud to be there. On Monday, when we came back to school, we were met by the principal that told us that we needed to go down and see Coach Sullins. And as we went down to see Coach Sullins, we were certain that he was going to congratulate us on being fine, upstanding citizens and floating down the Arkansas, and what a great job we were doing representing our school. We walked in and it was, what the hell were you doing with these jerseys, those football jerseys? Where did you get those football jerseys? You have 2 hours to get them and get them back here. You will be out of school. We knew that they could threaten things of us that they cannot do today. And we had those jerseys back in 2 hours. I listened to all of the stories, the wonderful stories of everybody here tonight. And we are all truly blessed. And I can't think of another place, and I'm sure you can't either, of where I would have wanted to be raised, to have the friendship and the love and the environment that we've all spoke about here tonight. And I think it's our duty to go from this night to share this same message with others that have not experienced something like this. But it's also to follow the example as the Timberlakes and others have done in providing scholarships for those worthwhile Ojai students who want to go on and further their education and maybe return someday. So I want to thank you very much for the staff and Ojai Alumni Committee, and you can rest assured that we will be out there trying to get other people to contribute to the program. Thank you very much.
Okay, what an awesome night. You know, this alumni committee, this Ojai Alumni Committee is, and what an honor we're here to honor people, but we're also the Ojai Alumni group, we want to encourage young people to, that's one of our goals. We want to put pictures at the high school. We want them to know that yes, you can progress. Yes, you can do things that you would never think of. Just like Shelby Wilson, just like everybody else, it can happen. And anyway, if you want to, for those who might want to nominate somebody, you can certainly do that. Anybody that is a Ojai grad, if you want to nominate somebody, you can look on the Facebook and it'll give you a sheet to fill out, or you can ask one of the committee members and we will get it to you. We'll mail it to you. So that's something that you can do. We look at those every year, and this is a progressive thing. We'll be here forever, I hope. And also, this has been mentioned before, contributions can be made to the Ponca City Ojai Alumni Association. You can help, you know, with cost or, you know, revenue to us, but contributions through the school system can be made for scholarships, and we've just started that program, and it's awesome, and we certainly do appreciate that. But anyway, it's over at the end here. We'll give you about 10 minutes, inductees, or if you accept an award for an inductee like Annette, you know, we would like for you to come up on the stage so we can take a picture, okay? What a great night. Awesome night.